Hello and a very warm welcome to World This Week by Latest Laws. This is our weekly program, so subscribe and press the bell icon to get notified. My name is Monika Rahar and let's get started by having a look at Supreme Court this week. A plea has been filed in the top court seeking immediate strict directions to the central government and also to the government of Uttarakhand to withdraw all advertisements inviting people to Haridwar for the Kumbh Mela, keeping in view the huge rise in COVID-19 cases. Alarmed by the pendency of more than 35 lakh cases pertaining to cheque bounce with the trial courts, a constitution bench at the Supreme Court has asked these courts which deal with the Section 138 cases to stick to summary trials of these cases and not routinely convert them into lengthy summons cases. And if these courts they choose to do so, then reasons are to be recorded for the same. The bench also recommended to the government to make suitable amendments to the NI Act to provide for one trial against a person for multiple offences under Section 138 committed within a period of 12 months, notwithstanding the restrictions placed in Section 219 of the CRPC. It was further stated by the bench that magistrates shall conduct inquiry on receipt of complaints under Section 138 to arrive at sufficient grounds to proceed against accused when he or she resides beyond the court's territorial jurisdiction. The top court has appointed the former Additional Solicitor General for Supreme Court of India and Senior Advocate of Supreme Court Maninder Singh and lawyer Rajesh Batra as special public prosecutors to argue for the Enforcement Directorate in the call block allocation scam cases. The court was passed this particular order after the probe agency came up with the present application seeking appropriate directions for the appointment of these new SPPs to conduct prosecution in these particular cases under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002. A group of MBBS doctors, they have filed a plea in the Apex Court seeking direction to postpone the NEET-PG exam, which is scheduled for April 18, citing growing COVID-19 cases. However, this particular plea, it has been withdrawn by these doctors in view of the fact that the government has already postponed the exam. A bench of the top court led by Honorable Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud has stated that access to professional education, it is not a governmental largesse and the state has an affirmative obligation to facilitate its reach at all levels. Further, the bench stated, and I quote, while the right to pursue higher professional education, it has not been spelled out as a fundamental right in Part 3 of the Constitution of India, it bears emphasis that access to professional education, it is not a governmental largesse. Instead, the state has an affirmative obligation to facilitate access to education at all levels. The court has ordered an investigation by the CBI in the 1994 Espionage Case against the ISRO Scientist Nambi Narayanan. The Supreme Court was hearing centre's plea seeking consideration of the report filed by a high-level committee regarding the role of the faulting police officials in this particular case related to Narayanan, who had been acquitted and was eventually awarded a compensation of Rs 50 lakh by the top court itself. The court has adjourned by 2 weeks the hearing on a plea of Zakia Jafri, who is the wife of late MP Ehsan Jafri, challenging the special investigating team Clean Chit given to the then Gujarat Chief Minister Narendra Modi in the 2002 riots case. Now let's proceed to the next segment of our news analysis and have a look at the Delhi High Court this week. Now, due to a huge rise in COVID-19 cases in Delhi, the Delhi High Court has permitted service of notices, summons, darks through email, fax or WhatsApp. However, the circular, it also stated that the normal mode of physical delivery, it may be permitted once the normalcy returns. The court has issued an order directing the centre to take a decision on framing rules to confer protection for exotic animals that are currently not under the purview of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. The court's order, it has come in response to a petition filed by animal rights group PETA India about the status of a male hippopotamus which was rescued from the Asiaid circus in UP. A single judge bench of the High Court comprising of Justice Suresh Kumar in the case of Shah Rukh Pathan versus the state NCT of Delhi, it has refused to grant bail to Shah Rukh Pathan, who was seen in a viral video pointing a gun at an unarmed Delhi police personnel during the riots of February 2020. The bench in this particular matter is held, and I quote, keeping in mind the gravity of offences committed by the petitioner as also the facts of the present case, I am not inclined to grant bail to the petitioner. WhatsApp has stated before the High Court that the Competition Commission of India, it shouldn't have ordered a probe into the platform's privacy policy, given the fact that 2 courts were already seized of the issue. WhatsApp has challenged the institution of an antitrust investigation against its privacy policy, which was updated this year. Now in the next segment, let's proceed to the High Court of Bombay. The High Court has recently observed that setting out 2 separate prayers in the same plea, one against the trademark infringement and another against passing off, it is not a well-suited approach. The High Court, in another matter, has recently issued guidelines for the effective compliance of provisions of the POCSO Act so as to ensure victims' participation at different stages of the judicial proceeding. The court stated that in the event of an application moved by the prosecution or the defense in a POCSO case, it shall be the duty of the Special Juvenile Police Unit to inform the relevant court about the service of such application and notice of hearing along with the proof of service. The bench further stated, where such service is not possible, then the reason for the same should be set out in writing. The relevant court must also ascertain the status of the notice. It was further stated by the bench that where despite issuance of notice the victim's family does not attend the hearing, then the court may proceed further without the presence of such notice or may issue another notice as may be judicially fit, as the court may determine or deem fit. Now let's proceed and let's have a look at the Jharkhand High Court this week. The former Chief Minister of Bihar, Mr. Lalu Yadav, he has been granted bail in the fodder scam case by the Jharkhand High Court. He was convicted in 4 cases relating to the fodder scam. The court had earlier rejected his plea for bail and he was sent to jail for 7 years under 2 sections in the Dumka tragedy case for illegally withdrawing rupees 3.13 crore from the Dumka tragedy. Now the next segment that we have, it is of Madras High Court. The High Court has sought the state government to create special centers in every district to give COVID-19 vaccine to the differently abled persons. The suggestion, it came after the state suggested that the central government guidelines that the state was currently following, it is nothing regarding the physically abled persons and the administration of vaccine to them. The court stated, and I quote, you can provide special centers so that they don't have to wait. They are already in a pitiable condition, and with the second wave hanging fire for the 3 to 4 weeks, something special can be done. Now let's move on to the segment of Kerala High Court. In a setback for the CPIM-led LDF government, the court quashed 2 FIRs registered against officials of Enforcement Directorate for allegedly forcing key accused in the gold smuggling case to give statement against the state chief minister. Quashing the FIR, the court held that police officials, they should have approached the special PMLA court, which was already considering this particular matter of gold smuggling, seeking a remedy to their grievances that the enforcement director official, they were fabricating evidence. Now let's proceed with the miscellaneous segment of our news analysis. Now, in view of the recent surge in COVID-19 cases, the Calcutta High Court, on the recommendation of its COVID committee, has decided to hold hearings through hybrid mode, that is both physical and virtual mode, from 12th April to 30th April 2021 at its principal seat at Calcutta and also at its circuit benches. A group of lawyers, they've written to the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court seeking postponement of the Saket Bar elections in view of the recent rise in COVID-19 cases in the national capital and also the emerging second wave of the COVID crisis in the entire country. The Ordinance on Air Quality Management in NCR and the adjoining areas, it has been re-promulgated, sparing farmers from a hefty penalty of up to ₹1 crore and jail term of up to 5 years for stubble burning. Besides, the changed provisions of the legislation also include stakeholders from 3 sectors, including the agriculture, industry and transport, in the expanded commission, which will be reconstituted to decide issues linked to air pollution. A special NIA court sent accused ex-Crime Intelligence Unit Officer Riaz Qazi and aide of suspended Mumbai Assistant Police Inspector Sachin Vase to custody till April 16. Now let's proceed with the last segment of our news analysis, which is the international news. UK Home Secretary Preeti Patel, she has approved the extradition of fugitive diamond merchant Nirav Modi in connection with the PNB scam case. Earlier this February, a London court had ordered that Nirav Modi could be extradited as, quote-unquote, he does have a case to answer before the Indian courts. Pakistan has again urged India to appoint a lawyer to represent death row convict Kulbhushan Jadhav to implement the verdict of the International Court of Justice. Federal Court of Australia has found that Google misled some consumers about personal location data collected through Android mobile devices, Australia's competition regulator stated on Friday. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission stated, and I quote, "It is seeking declaration and penalties from Google, though it did not specify an amount." Brazil's Federal Supreme Court has upheld the annulment of ex-president Lula da Silva's conviction on corruption charges, thus clearing the way for him to run again in the next year's general elections. Alright, so that's all we have for this week. The link of all these news updates, they are made available for your kind consideration in the description section. You may visit that. And thank you for being with us.